vague
Cicero,
anecdotes.
Illinois.
And you make these sweeping statements that they're not training.
Would you like me
they're
to
not
get
training ICE agents. Of course
with
they go through
examples
training.
of what is happening?
Of course they're training them. She said they're not training.
Do you think that
She was saying a specific example, and you said it was false.
Don't.
She said, quote, they're not training them.
Children that have been scooped up that are U.S. citizens.
I know you don't want the law enforced. I get it.
The reason why they're often detained, though, is also because of the color of their skin.
Absolutely.
Watch us. Clinton Jaws, Scott Jennings. Is there anybody better than Scott Jennings? I love watching this guy on CNN. The Abby Phillips show, it's the only show I'm interested in. I like his style. He actually gets mad here. Visibly angry. Because the View host, she just throws out anything she wants to throw out. And he's forced to fact check her live on air. I love watching civilians talk about policing. It's not their fault, but they're clueless when it comes to law enforcement. Listen, watch.
Tonight, push-ups, sit-ups, and a 1.5 mile run are standing in the way of Donald Trump's plan to hire and train 10,000 ICE agents by January. Now, nearly a third of the recruits right now are failing ICE's personal fitness test.
Of course they're failing. When you quadruple the number of applicants, of course there's going to be more failure.
It's pathetic, a career ICE official tells The Atlantic in an email to the agency's top officials that complains of a considerable amount of athletically allergic candidates, misrepresenting their physical condition on application forms. Now, what's more, these recruits are flunking basic civics exams. In a statement to CNN, DHS downplayed concerns and said that the numbers reflect a subset of candidates in initial basic academy classes. In the meantime, the Trump administration has cut the amount of time the recruits spend in training.
She backed up. She didn't even read that. I didn't even notice this before. Look, we have received over 175,000 applications. Of course there's going to be failure. There has to be.
Navarro, when you look at some of these interactions between ICE agents and the public, frankly, it's not entirely surprising that that's what's happening as they try to rush these people through the process of getting certified to be on the streets.
Okay, well, in all honesty, I'm athletically allergic.
We know.
Could not pass the presidential exam when I was in school, could not do a pull-up for a nanosecond. That being said, look, I think this lack of not only the athletic aspect, but also the civics aspect is showing in the interactions we are seeing. There have been at least 170 U.S. citizens that have been detained by ICE. We have seen people get scooped up because they're black in Chicago.
Oh, that's
U.S. citizen blacks put into U-Haul trucks, in the back of U-Haul trucks. We have seen teenagers pinned to the ground. We know that there have been more deaths in ICE custody in the last few months than there were in the last 4 years. So, I would hope
finally doing their job,
that even folks who are in favor of deporting everybody, I would hope that there would be some agreement that there needs to be rights, that there needs to be a process.
Is there no
that
rights?
People need to be allowed to show ID, that they can't just be scooped up in that way and have their rights violated. It's just inhumane what we are seeing in the streets of America.
Or at least that the standards shouldn't be lowered just to meet a quota.
Okay, I just have to respond to this. If you are housing or living with somebody in MS-13 or a gang member, it is very possible that you could get swept up in that. That is just a reality.
Listen, the vast majority of the people who have been detained do not have criminal records. 75%.
If you're living with a gang member, you gotta know that's a possibility.
That's not the people that were scooped up in this residential building in the middle of the night. You're just making things up. You're making things up. Most of the people that have been detained do not have any criminal records or ties to gangs.
Look, I'm sure you can find an example or two of this, but we also know the situations for a lot of these 170 Americans. And some of them were just happened to be in the same location as other people who might have been targeted by ICE and were still scooped up.
The teenage black boy I was referring to was in a CVS. To
Anna Navarro's point, that apartment building that they raided a couple of weeks ago that housed, frankly, mostly Americans, they only identified 2 alleged Tren de Aragua members.
Then it worked.
The rest of the people who were arrested, including American citizens, they're not gang members.
That's right.
So that's also happening.
Okay.
But I was asking you about this.
That's called policing. If a cop has a search warrant, enters a house, everybody in that house is detained. They're not allowed to leave. That's policing. That's how you do it. That's how you have to do it. You don't let them roam freely. You even detain the infant, okay? It's not a big deal. It's policing. Hey, we got a search warrant. You got a marijuana grow up. Do you mind if I go to the bathroom? No. Sit on the couch. You're detained.
I think as many as 80% of police officers are overweight, and so we've seen standards just decrease across the board. Now, my understanding is that they aren't decreasing the standards. They're just saying that a lot of people are failing, and I think that's okay, right? They have a lot of people who are...
By the way, guys, if you're trying to get away from a cop, don't hide at a donut shop. We had that happen here not too long ago.
Interested in joining, not all of them are going to meet the criteria, and that's the reality.
A lot of people are joining because a lot of people need jobs. A lot of people are failing because we don't teach civic in schools, and that's a problem. And
She's a teacher.
They're offering $50,000 bonuses.
A lot of people are taking the job because there's student loan forgiveness.
That's what's happening. They're failing. The system is working. They have fitness standards. They have standards for civics. If you fail the standards, you don't get in. So the story is that you have a system in place designed to weed people out who shouldn't be in. Yeah, and it's working. That's a good thing.
I will say this.
Yeah.
So here's what we know, at least for now. In February, the requirements were this: 32 sit-ups in a minute or less, 22 push-ups in a minute or less, 220-yard sprint, 1.5-mile run. Now, the standard is 15 push-ups as opposed to 22.
Oh, that's better.
So it's still 32 sit-ups, 1.5 miles in slightly less time than before. So there's been a slight adjustment. Who knows why? You need to do 7 fewer push-ups than before, but
the standards were lowered.
You still have to meet an athletic standard, and you still have to meet a civic
So they lowered the standard.
But standard's still declining.
I also think, to me, also the civics part is huge, because knowing people's rights in this country is part of what you need to know if you're going to be violating them potentially as a law enforcement officer, or at least you have the power to do that.
But there was another claim tucked into that report, which is the people themselves are misrepresenting themselves. Say they're lying. See, that's a decline of standards too. It's a matter of character. It's a matter of soul craft. So it's not just you got a decline of standards across the board, and too often you want to scapegoat the most vulnerable. It must be the black folk and brown folk responsible for the decline of standards. No, get off the crack pipe. That's not true at all. What's really true is the decline of standards across the board, and people acting as if they're so athletically on the cutting edge, and when it's time to take the test, they can't pass it.
And if you lie on your application, perhaps you lie on the job.
Well, just today there was an ICE police officer whose weapon discharged and injured a U.S. Marshal and the suspect because they were using the service weapon to bang on the window of a suspect. I mean, I don't know. I mean, these are the types of things that
some cops do stupid things.
Is there proper training happening here when it comes to ICE?
There's not. We've all seen it. And there should be.
You definitively state that they're not being properly trained. Do you know that?
Because they're shooting dogs.
Lots of dogs daily get shot by cops. You come across a vicious dog, sometimes pepper spray doesn't work, you got to shoot and kill them. Of course they are.
They're shooting dogs. They're shooting dogs in people's that have been locked in people's bathrooms. They're abandoning small children alone in cars while they... No, it's not false. Look it up. Don't just say false. I actually...
Abandoning small children. They turned the children over to HHS.
There were actually small children abandoned in a highway in a car in Cicero, Illinois.
You make these sweeping statements that they're not training.
Would you like me to get
training ICE
with
examples
of what is happening?
Of course they're training them.
Well, they're training them, then they're not learning the stuff. They're definitely violating human rights, Scott.
Definitely.
Well, I disagree with you.
Okay, well.
Well, look, Scott, she had a specific example.
It was a stupid example.
Sounds like you were unfamiliar with it.
I'm not aware of her example. Here's what I know.
Okay,
Under Joe Biden, they didn't enforce federal immigration law. Now we do. We're having hundreds of thousands of interactions.
My point is that
things will happen, but she said they are not training them. She said they're not training them.
Do you think that trained
She was saying a specific example, and you said it was false.
She said, quote, they're not training them.
You just
We all
acknowledge that
see
you
it.
don't know what she was
Do you
referring
think?
to.
I don't. I don't know
that
what she's
scooping
talking
up
about.
U.S. citizens without
I
giving them?
disagree with the generalization that they're scooping up U.S.
There's
citizens.
170 that have been
Well, there's
scooped
over
up.
500,000 illegal aliens that have been
There's
deported.
little children that have been
1.6
scooped
million
up
have
that are U.S.
self-deported.
citizens.
All right, look.
There is
I know you
video.
don't want the law
There
enforced.
is
I get it.
video
You
of
don't have to
black
yell at me.
kids.
You don't want the law
All right,
enforced.
You're the
I
one yelling
understand.
too.
Look, it is true
Guess what?
that
On
United
this
States
table, black
citizens
and white people can yell.
have been detained by ICE without.
Detained and released.
Yeah,
Released.
But
Released.
whether you're detained
After
and released
hours or
after
days of
hours or
being-
days,
Hours and days,
those-
hours
your,
and days.
your rights may still be violated, and that's still an issue that people have
Can
a
I
right to
just-
be concerned
Can I
about.
just throw a curveball? The reason why they're often detained though is also because of the color of their skin.
Absolutely.
Watch us.
I mean, that's, again, a sweeping blanket general. Do you know of a
Oh, we got
specific
data for that.
instance
No,
where
oh, no,
someone,
we got
I mean,
data for that.
honestly,
Actually,
We
the
will
answer
know
is
specific
They got
instance
data
of
for
what.
that.
the answer
I mean,
is.
you're saying they're
hold
not
on a
treated.
second.
You're saying they're racist.
The
I mean, these are
answer-
blanket
I didn't say that.
statements.
That was a blanket
That's
statement.
The
wild.
answer is yes, we do know of
That was
specific
a blanket
instances
statement.
in which people, American citizens, have been arrested because they happen to be in a particular place and look a certain way.
That's
That
policing.
has actually happened. They're documented. So this is
And
not
released.
guesswork that we're doing here. Yeah, but they're
It's not
still
just look a certain
detained.
way.
They're still arrested without their rights being given to them. That is still happening.
And too
You
many
no,
are
look.
being
the
terrorized.
federal
When you detain or arrest somebody, you're given rights.
government is at a standstill
In
tonight.
fact, they read them right away. But you see how she just throws it out there? Small children, abandoned on the side of the road. Give me an example. Well, I can't, really. I heard it. I think I read about it. Weak arguments. Not one strong argument from the Democrats. If I go to a 911 call and the house is covered with cocaine, do you not want me to detain everybody? I'm sorry you were hanging around. I'm sorry you're innocent, but you were hanging around cocaine. I got to detain you. I'm sorry you're hanging around with illegals. I got to detain you. Anyways, good job, Scott. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.